Dear viewers, glad to see you all on Feygin Live. Time is 2 minutes past 10, Friday, 1st of July. And we're doing another stream with Olexiy Arestovych on our channel, day 128. Glad to see you, Olexiy. Yes, hi. Hi, everybody. Alright, we have 135,000 watching us live. Over 20,000 already left their likes. As usual, ask everybody to share them. Spend a few seconds, but share these links in different social media. Subscribe to Feygin Live, to Olexiy Arestovych. If you're watching that in English, subscribe to the Privateer station. Alright, let's start. We got some news. There was a break yesterday, so we have some news to cover the last couple days. Whatever you think we need to cover, but yeah, please update us. We do have the map we can bring up. Alright, on the front, let's walk over the perimeter. Sumy and Chernigov region are still being shelled by Russian terrorists. Sumy governor said, be careful, they're still doing it. Kharkov, they're still trying to get to Old Saltov, and they're trying to push our troops from the road that leads towards Izium, because there is a risk that we can cut their supply lines. So they're shooting at Kharkov still. Nikolaev got 10 missiles. Kharkov, they're using Iskanders, they're using MLRS systems, and they're using field artillery. They're also alive near Izium and Bakhmut. They're trying to make the same movement to Barvinkovo, to Balit, to Svetogorsk, to Bogorodichne. They're trying to pretend they're moving, but not really. It doesn't quite work for them, and they can't really advance much. The main, of course, war theater is near Lysychansk. Brave Russian troops are trying to storm our positions from the south. The forefront, they're using Lugansk and Donetsk forces. Partly they occupied oil refinery that is in Lysychansk. Back in 2014, I called this war the War of Destroyed Factories. Remember what there was on Donbass back in the day? And it's like a post-apocalyptic sci-fi movie where you walk around the broken factories, crumbled glass, destroyed machinery. So that's what's happening in Lysychansk now. Popasna group of Russians is trying to attack Volchyarovka, to push towards Malorizanska, and to maybe lock Lysychansk from behind. They can't quite do it, but they're still trying. It's basically 10 kilometers that's between Russian troops on both sides. And also very concentrated move. They're trying to push towards Bakhmut. And they think if they take it, they might threaten Kramatorsk and Slavyansk. So they're talking about double pincer movement. One is Verkhnekamenska, that's up on roughly 1 o'clock on this map to the southwest of Lysychansk, and another, the wider thing. Let's go south. They're trying to reach New York. Yes, there is New York and Ukraine. Not successful so far. Kherson, a lot of artillery infighting between our troops and Russians, and it seems that our artillery is quite a bit more effective. But all these movements for now are tacticals and just causing both sides some harm and inconvenience. If we look at more missile hits, 3 Ha-22 rockets, H-22, did hit Odessa. They shot up the children's camp. There are about 28 wounded, but only 2 of them are kids, so that's lucky for kids. That's the story we have. Alright, the next question would be, with this missile shelling that Russians are doing, in Kiev there was a house with the upper floors. Remember, Gerashchenko showed a passport of Russian citizen who got hit with that. Then, roughly next day, we do have Kremenchug. And then the day before, there was Nikolaev. And a crown jewel was the hit on Odessa region with 2 kids dead. So Moscow is reacting in its usual way. That was not me, that shit is not mine. We don't shoot civil targets. In general, we do understand they're really corrupt gangsters. What do you think, though, on the other hand? Do they cause or some reaction, I wouldn't even call it disproportionate, but some reaction. And it seems like Bankova, the street where the president resides in Ukraine, also has to react to these structures. So what do you think is the main reason for this shelling? All right, it's actually pretty simple, Mark. I understand, but please speak up. So they're sitting in Moscow thinking they gotta do something. What? Start going through the options they have. Something needs to be done with damn Ukrainians. What can we do? Let's hit them with cruise missiles, because Ukrainians don't have them. We just don't have them in our army. So they're hitting some objects. Which objects? Doesn't matter, just hit some objects. And that's where the terror comes from. So why they're hitting these targets? They don't care. They don't have enough weapons to create enough military impact, but they gotta do something. And if Putin calls them and asks, so what are they doing? They're telling him, we're shelling them, we're hitting the targets. And they're saying they're hitting radio stations, supply depots, Western weapon depots. But the resonance is so bad that even Putin had to come out and apologize or explain their hits. Odessa also blew up in their face. And one sane would come out and say, hey guys, stop doing it, because it's too bloody, the whole world causes really bad reaction and causes us to look bad. But they're still continuing. Well, they are continuing, yeah, that's them. They will continue until they run out of this weapon. They got some in store right now, they got some uncorked. They prep them, so they'll be using till they're out. And then perhaps when their internal analysts will tell them, hey, we maybe are done, nothing works, maybe let's do something different. But not from the outside. Outside pressure didn't really matter much. And the only thing they're achieving is that West is starting to help us more. They're already saying that they're going to expedite different supply lines, and also anti-missile defense systems starting to be mentioned, so that is good. By the way, do you think we should expect a serious scale answer? There will be answer. I mean, not a miraculous, but today in Rovenki our HIMARS hit target. Well, Russians say it's HIMARS. We're saying somebody hit. And we're hitting the military. They're hitting our civilians. We are hitting their military targets. And frankly, even to be blunt here, hitting military targets is better during the war times. Hitting civilian targets, it's a really bad return on investment. You just destroy civilian infrastructure, which does not have capacity to resist the invasion. destroying military is much more painful. What we are doing is about 200 times more painful than what they're doing. After the war, I would tell you what I really, when this war is over, I'll tell you what I really think about these hits and what could they have targeted, but they don't. They're idiots. They can actually hit us painfully enough, but they're not realizing how to, and I'm not going to help them. We'll talk. So they do have some sort of training. Aksotov commented in Russia that they're doing military exercise over the Crimea Bridge. Are they expecting that the Ukrainian side will hit the Crimea Bridge? They're expecting it throughout the war, and they're training how to do that. And why do you think they put the smoke there and stuff? Well, they could probably mark the place where the missile could have hit, and they're training around it. There was also an automobile crash there, and locals actually thought that something happened. So it's an interesting coincidence. And that's what ran into the public media and social media, saying that there was a hit or something on the bridge. You think they're seriously preparing? Well, we have no sentiments about this bridge. When we have time and opportunity, we shall. But right now, technically, we are incapable of hitting it effectively. There is no real military limits for us. This war, yeah, as I see it, this war is done. It's a total war. All the means are being used, except for maybe chemical, biological, and nuclear. But all the standard warfare means are definitely being used in this war. And Moscow is hoping that they'll terrorize Ukraine in a corner that Ukraine will be afraid to even hit something else. It's not a question for us. It's either to fight and stop them or not and give up. Remember the Iran-Iraq war? Iran-Iraq, they tried to get some territory from each other, but eventually it degraded into each side shooting MLRS systems into just civilian targets in the city, because nothing can be achieved on the battlefront, and they just started terrorizing the populace. Armenia and Azerbaijan conflict, similar thing. When they couldn't achieve success on the battlefront, they were using some missiles or some artillery strikes to hit whatever target. Armenians were mostly doing that in that war, but yeah, basically both sides did it. It's when the general command is calling the officers and commanders of the regiments and asking, what are you doing? Why are we not advancing? And that's what they're saying. We're just shelling targets. We're hitting different targets, and they can claim any targets at that point. But in this case, all these missiles, all that, each strike, each civilian target strike from Russia is actually causing West to help us more, because they're also wasting the military resources on the civilian targets, and they're speeding up the West, making decisions that they could have thought about for another 3 months, pushed it away for maybe till autumn. But after these steps taken by Putin's regime, they're expediting them. So it's almost we're dealing with complete idiots, Mark. Yeah, but very dangerous idiots. Of course, yes, they're a gang of dangerous idiots. And they don't really work with the reality. They work in their own. It would have been funny if it was not deadly for people who die. Yep, this is sad. Over 300 people are watching us, 300,000 watching us live. We're about 15 minutes. Please subscribe and leave your likes. So let's talk about Snake Island, Zmyny Ostrov. We actually used the stamp as a preview for this cast, that known picture. Let's not curse too much. People are already commenting in chat for the swear words we're using. So this island kind of made dialectical or philosophical or whatever circle that right now they're actually leaving that island again. So maybe they were keeping it for military, for a naval assault base. Maybe get it and attack Odessa from there, and we'll laugh out loud. But they essentially sat there for a few days or a few weeks, and by day 128 they're leaving the Snake Island. And again, we hear goodwill that they use. Goodwill never disappears. It was near Kiev, and suddenly that goodwill came not to Odessa or Kremenchuk, it came to the Snake Island, out of all places. So they did mention that they're leaving it as a goodwill. So, first question, what was it? Why? Is my diagnosis correct? That they were thinking maybe about naval attack, naval troops? Second, do you think Ukraine army is going to take Snake Island, and would it become a target or not in this case? Because it's frankly quite a target, sticking out in the sea. And third, how can that affect food blockade of the Ukrainian ports? Would it have any influence on that? I don't think it will, but maybe you have a different opinion. So first question, answer. They tried to control northwest of the Black Sea. As a part of that control, of course, naval assault and taking of Odessa was an option. But one should understand that after Moscow was sunk, that technically became impossible. And ever since the Russian fleet withdrew 200 miles from shore, and keeping the Snake Island became technically a very difficult task. And they tried a few times and then eventually understood that there is no option to hold it well, because it's too easy to target. Second answer, Ukrainian forces probably won't be holding it. There's no reason why to repeat their mistakes, put a garrison there to be destroyed every time. So we'll likely fly there, put our flag and mark it, and then leave, and that's about it. And the third, about the blockade of our ports. Snake Island had anti-air defense, some radio intel equipment. But how should I say how should I put it delicately? Black Sea is fully blocked by Russian Federation in general. So Snake Island is a good thing. Yeah, it increased our safety in the northwest region of the Black Sea, but it doesn't really project a military success or new military opportunities for us to move grain and food out of our ports, because food transit can happen only under ironclad guarantees that transport ships can pass. And the only way that can be given, it's not even Russian command. It means that cargo ships need to be escorted by military ships, by first the ones that are cleaning the waters from mines, and also some overview, some protection from air. And it's only NATO countries who can provide such defense. And NATO countries are not in a hurry to put their naval assets at risk. Why fight and lose possibly their own equipment and people if Ukraine military is fighting for now and can kind of do it okay? And food crisis apparently is not that bad to do that. So roughly, let's put that victory into the tactical. No, actually it should be an operative, because frankly it's the whole region that got affected. The threat of the naval assault, and it went down, it disappeared. The moment we got Harpoon missiles, it disappeared. There is not an idiot who's gonna drive the ship too close to the shore. Alright, so Harpoon is definitive answer to that. Yeah, if you use any descent vessel to bring your troops to the shore, it'll get hit with harpoon before it has a chance to disembark anything. It'll be Moscow #2, so nobody gonna do that. All right, 20 minutes we're live. Let's talk about Belarus. This is an interesting topic. It's somewhat softening of a discussion because there are some aspects of it that allow us to trample a little on that dictator. They're still doing military maneuvers. They're claiming to do the training, stating that we always can invade in Ukraine if need be or if provoked. That's his usual rhetoric at this point. In your view, this threat, is it increasing, decreasing, staying the same? We discussed it many times, but since many people are asking, perhaps we should discuss it again. Especially after summit in Madrid, that threat, did it increase or did it decrease noticeably? Mark, I'll open a secret for you. Lukashenko's regime, together with Putin's regime, are spinning a big disinformation campaign, which is called Threat of Belarus Invasion to Ukraine. There is no real threat. Just to create some kind of threat, Belarus army needs at least 2 months to mobilize its assets. They cannot do that without help of Russian troops. There are no Russian troops in Belarus. There's just service groups for the Iskanders cruise missiles and some technical intel people and airfields. So there are no Russian troops in Belarus because they're out of reserves. Well, yes, to create any threat, you need 15,000-20,000 of Russian troops to be there to create any threat. And where to take them? They don't even have enough to cover Popasnaya, where they need to take those villages. So, one of the memes of this war, like they were joking in Iraq War when Americans were advancing very fast, there was a port city called Qasr that Brits could not take, and they were announcing that they took it quite a few times. And journalists used to put things saying that. So there were several announcements that they took it. So there was a meme going around that Allied forces took Qasr. That's the 7th Qasr they've taken since the beginning of this war. So same thing here. They're threatening to cross the border. People are writing questions asking, "Hey, Olexiy, do we really need to evacuate?" So it'll be like a 100th border they're threatening to cross. If you hear me, and I'll actually dress for that, put something real black and dark on and say it's a really high probability of their attack over the border, crossing the border with their troops, and then listen to that. Otherwise, I'll be trolling them as long as I can, because we know what's happening there. We know down to a mushroom in their forest what is going on. We have very good intel. So whenever there is a real threat, we'll tell you. It's so transparent that in case of their invasion, you'll have a metronome that'll start the backward countdown for Lukashenko death or getting dethroned. Well, I'll say that their bureaucrats are doing anything they can to not fight. Just anything and everything. And what about Lukashenko himself? Oh yeah, he's of course the leader of all that, not going to war. Can he wink and give signals? Like, is that how he talks? Well, did you see the letter that their brigade actually wrote a letter, one of their military brigades wrote a letter to Lukashenko saying that they're not going to participate in war. And it still needs to be verified, but basically statement is Alexander Grigorievich Lukashenko, please do not push us into this war. We don't need that, you don't need that either. We don't want the consequences of such a decision. I've seen that interesting letter. It needs verification. Maybe it's a fake, but even if it's a fake, it does show the mood of the Belarus army. There is some logic behind that, right? Moscow has its views, but even technically they cannot send and will not send Belarus to attack us without their troops mixed with them. Or maybe Russian army behind them, or maybe in the area where Russian troops already gained some success and Belarus troops, yes, but not just send Belarus alone. Because, as we mentioned, all of a sudden things may change, that Ukraine army may actually obtain a few big detachments with a lot of weaponry, and, Belarus army might just change flag and fight against the regime instead of fighting against their friends and relatives and families across the border. Yeah, and Belarus army is also a conscription army, right? So, yeah, they're also people with families and relatives. And the only way they can infuse them into the warfare theater is if they're strictly controlled by Russian troops. And there is no way they can create such a control at this point. All right, I will consider that. Let's also talk about ammo supplies and weapons supplies to Ukraine. People are asking a lot of different questions about that, so we'll improvise some out of many. Many people are asking, besides the major suppliers of munitions and weapons, about the smaller countries. We saw Norway blipping on the radar with their support. But there are countries like Czech Republic that are also making some significant weaponry. Other countries of Central Europe, Spain, their supplies. Can you say something about the small countries? Yeah, they do supply what they can. Spain actually, remember, they wanted to supply us 40 tanks. Germans stopped them from doing it. Also, Czech and Slovakia, there are two countries that are repairing a lot of NATO equipment. And they're central repair hubs, basically. And they're also weapon hub of Europe. Not too many people know, but yeah, they have a very powerful industry there. Many tens of years, even before Soviet times. Yeah, when Hitler took Czech Republic, they said that they can equip up to 40 additional divisions with equipment provided for Germany. And that during the Second World War, Czech manufacturing capability provided about a third of Germans' weaponry. Czechs and Slovaks cultures, they're interesting peoples. They mix Slavic inventiveness with German discipline. So they are real weapons giants in that area. And they're very loyal to us. For a lot of reasons. So, as their official people are saying, they're repairing and modernizing equipment. And they've sent us a lot of modernized equipment from the USSR times, and they're upgrading them and sending. And Czechs actually gave us everything from tanks to helicopters. There was a long list of different equipment. We're very thankful to them and the Poles. Czechs, Slovaks, Poles, they are really a significant part of support. So do you think the countries of Central Europe, they're balancing, or they're not enough to balance out the absence of German support? Well, Germany kind of demilitarized itself. 26 brigades that turned into 6 over 20 years. That's not the question I'd put there. Germany is supplying us quite a bit. They're supplying us thousands of Matador complex, which is a bit better than Javelin on some properties. They were also giving us the anti-air equipment, but it's mostly infantry, right? It's infantry, but still. That's what US and Britain were supplying initially. And now they're sending us Panzerhowitzers, they're giving 6 more. Our people are training on Jeopards, they'll send us more. So there's a significant supply coming from Germany. And today there was a publication that 44% of Germans support increase of military help, over 20 support the previous level, and only 18% are rooting for decreasing of the military support. So majority of Germans are at least supporting Ukraine. Over 2/3 are supporting the general line, so it's good. French. Macron is often blamed for things, but France is supporting us with more heavy equipment again. And we have to say also, not everything is announced that is being sent. There are interesting aspects to that we can talk about after this war. And another thing is that the group McFall Yermak also was joined with Rasmussen Yermak group. So that group is working on guarantees of safety for Ukraine for the period of candidacy to join EU. So there'll be military help. Americans signed for it 120 anti-air defense. I don't think they'll announce it, and I will not put details on that until official Americans will make statements. If they do, then yes, we can talk about it. The main thing is that they will supply that. That's good. And I can say what I can say. So, for example, Norwegian anti-air defense system, that's a very smart one. It leads, it tracks 72 up to 72 targets. It launches missiles from some sort of containers. You don't need any special equipment for that. It's almost like British brimstones, which you can launch from a donkey, if need be. So basically, it's the weapon that you can use in very adverse conditions. The only another wonderful thing is that it's a tracking, highly selective system that allows to filter through noise and actually very effectively hits targets. They were talking about some other items, but no announcement of specific name yet, so I'm not calling it. What I want to go is that support is happening. And American companies are ready to build equipment for Ukraine. That's Lend-Lease. That's not old decommissioned stuff. This is new stuff that is being manufactured. They're preparing it to start. So here we should not really be concerned. Lend-Lease, it's a slow process. It takes a bit longer. We'll probably look at September, October, August, September, October. So you need to hang on for a couple months, right? Well, month technically, and we're still getting weapons. And also looking at the tempo and mode of Russian ground troops, it's not a difficult task to do that. Remember that movie when Gandalf said, thou shalt not pass? They will not pass. The United States will be supporting Ukraine, as they said, as long as they have to. Over 50 countries promised to support Ukraine with 150,000 anti-tank systems, over 600 tanks, over 500 artillery systems, over 500,000 ammo units, MLRS systems, and anti-aircraft systems. Today's General Secretary of NATO said that Ukraine army will be refitted according to NATO standards. That is a big stuff. It'll take time. It's a lengthy process. This may take a year and a half for the whole process to take, but every support coming from the West is increasing our capabilities, but usually increases dramatically, even though it's a very niche increase, but it does. And, imagine Russian Moskvich racing against Mercedes. Or, every Western HIMARS is basically worth of 10 Russian Smerch systems. And in Russia, they always lack that comparative stuff. Over there, they can cuss their automobile industry. They know that their cars suck. But in regards to military, there is a myth there that there are no analogs, that their military equipment is the best. Mark, second army of the world, fighting for 5 months of their with extended effort, trying the best they can, could not achieve operative success on any single of their directions that they chose as their targets. Practically saying it's not an army. Normal army, given these tasks, they usually solve at least some of them. Normal army is designed to solve these tasks. This one doesn't. Normal army has a certain budget and amount of troops, and when their budget was bigger than that for these resources, they were preparing it for 10 years. They used everything they had prepared, thrown at this war, and they still cannot resolve any of the tasks put in front of them. This is a catastrophe for the Central Command under normal conditions. Imagine there is a task for a family to, let's say, buy an apartment. For that, they gave $2 billion. They started looking for purchase. The only thing they have left suddenly is only 35,000, and the apartment is worth 60. So they're trying to figure out where did the money go, but officially they're saying that everything is according to the plan, and that was the design from the beginning. But people are believing that in Russia. Yeah, they are. But they're still raising more and more questions. Why did they give up the Snake Island? And different questions to the government. They're growing. Yes, Olexiy, these questions exist. I don't know about their dynamic if they're growing, but these questions exist. Officially pretty mum because of the threats in social media where they can ask anonymously. They ask these questions, yes. Here's another fact. Somewhere in Siberia, and Trans-Siberian Rail, 19 carts derailed. Oh yeah, you think Arestovych disappeared for a day and that happened? Well, I only read that some anti-war activist groups took responsibility for that. Could have been that Legion of Freedom of Russia. Yeah, that could be a railroad war. Railroad war is a big thing, actually. People underestimate it. Lukashenko already felt it when they threatened to invade Ukraine. There was a lot of incidents. And in Russia, they're starting to see that. The changes are accumulated gradually, but the overall big shift happens immediately, dramatically. So here's another little thing. During last period gauged, United States supplied more natural gas to Europe than Russia. This is first time ever. And it's a mix. States are trying to increase their supply, and Russia is trying to decrease their supply. Yeah, they put the Northern Stream to repair, so as if they're trying to create some pressure of a bigger scale before the winter season. And let's maybe suffer monetarily, but shut down the pipes as much as we can, so till Europe screams. And we'll do it before Europe does the 10th or 11th set of sanctions and do it themselves. We'll do it first. Oh yeah, in Russia, the suicide is welcome, yes. And European Union as a response is saying, okay, we'll try to save money here, but we'll put more money into supplying Ukraine with military. And right now the coalition against Putin's regime is about the same as the anti-Hitler coalition back in 1945. Against Hitler, I think there were 50 countries. Against Putin, it's 51 countries. And the countries of Axis, they had more allies, right, than Moscow? Yeah, Moscow doesn't really have any allies. And even Talibs who were there in the Economic Forum, they asked for some support and military support after they visited Russia from the third parties. So as I said, the changes, they accumulate gradually, but they manifest suddenly. So this is a really bad game for them. They're burning furnace not even with dollars, they're burning furnace with their future. Don't think anything, but I think it's good. I think it's good. There is a part of Russians who are actually enjoying that process, that finally that regime is killing itself. You know, some time will pass, and Vice Prime Minister of Russian Federation named Mark Feygin. Oh, you surprised me here, Alex. Okay, let's say I'm more from the judiciary branch, right? Okay, the general prosecutor. General Prosecutor Feygin. By the way, yeah, Krasnov is really scared now. And General Prosecutor Feygin will say, Olexiy, come, I'll see you at the Red Square and have a coffee. And I'll be glad to come to free Russia and sit with you on the Red Square. We'll be drinking cappuccino and people will be taking pictures and selfies and saying, thank you for your information support. Thank you for your cast, your streams during those years. And I think this time will come in one way or another. This is a very optimistic note. It's Friday night, so we have 386,000 people watching us live. You know, weekend almost. So despite all of the horrors of happening of this war, they keep shelling and people, civilians keep dying. They're assholes. There's no other words. But still, dear viewers, find some time to spend good time with your family tonight. Maybe have a drink and just enjoy life. We'll have a stream tomorrow, right? We also have an interesting news. Russian aviation missed the target and hit their own troops in Kherson region. Oh, friendly fire. Yep, that just came on my stream. Friendly fire, very unique. Best equipment, right, as they say. Alright, tomorrow at 10 p.m. Mark, while nobody's listening to us, do you really want to be a general prosecutor? Attorney General? Remember the movie, The Run? There is a main character there who says, you know what? I will join Bolsheviks, I'll join those commies for a day, execute y'all, and then leave the party and become free again. Alright, Mark. For that day, invite me over when you'll be an Attorney General for a day. Okay, thank you for everybody who joined us today. Was a bit over 42 minutes. We're meeting tomorrow again. We'll have a stream and we'll talk about more things. About our continuing charity projects, and we're waiting for you then. Olexiy, thank you so very much. See you tomorrow. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.